Assalamu alaikum, peace be with you. Some miscellaneous issues before we close off our session on wudu, and we'll get into more topics related to the prayer in Islam. So we have already discussed, some of the things that will break your wudu, and of course, the goal is to be pure. So this is related to, I know you might think that this is repetitive, but this is related to our topic of wudu, is that we know that major impurity and then we have minor impurity, right? And this question does come up, and I'll show you what I mean in a minute. But if you have major impurity, minor impurity, our goal, of course, is to be pure. We know what invalidates your purity, and you get into the state of minor impurity, and what happens when the acts that you do that will take you into major impurity. But the goal is to be pure. So let's say if you're in the state of minor impurity and you do wudu. Well, let's do another example. Let's say you were in the state of major impurity, right? You had relationship with your wife, sexual intercourse, and you got into the state of major impurity. You doing wudu is not going to help, right? You're not going to become pure. So if you're in the state of minor impurity and you did wudu, you will be pure. If you're in the state of major impurity, you have to do ghusl, take the bath to get into purity. Now, a question does come that what if you were in the state of major impurity, you do ghusl, now you're pure, and it's time for prayer, do you still have to make wudu? No. The goal is to make sure that you are pure. So if you're in the state of major impurity, you did ghusl, now you are pure, good job. That's it. You don't have to do wudu in order to be pure, because you're already in the state of purity. Now you can go and make your salah. You can start praying. Another question that does come is that, okay, now I have wudu, I pray my salah. Let's say I did my morning prayer. I did my morning prayer. And now it's time for the second prayer, which is, let's say, if it's the noon prayer, or it's the sunset prayer, or the night prayer, right? There's different prayers throughout the day. If I prayed in the morning, and I did not break my wudu, and we all know what are those things that I did not have anything that got me into major impurity. So if I prayed in the morning, time for noon prayer comes up. Do I have to make wudu? No, because we have narrations where Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, prayed in the same wudu. He prayed several prayers with the same wudu without refreshing it. So you can keep it until you break it. Basically, you go to deep sleep or pass gas, go to the bathroom, things like that. Those will invalidate your wudu. You get into minor impurity, and then you can do wudu. But if you're in the state of purity, you don't have to. It's definitely nice because we know the reward of doing wudu, but the key is you don't have to do wudu if you already had it. Let's say you had one in the noon prayer, and now it's time for sunset prayer. Do you still have to do wudu? No, you don't, unless you broke it. Another issue is, how many times do we have to wash? Now, when we showed our video, we already talked about it briefly, but basically we have narrations with Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessing be upon him. When he did his wudu, he washed his body parts, and we know all the body parts that we wash in the state of wudu once. And then he also did it twice in some other narrations, in some other instances, and he also did it 3 times as well, thrice, right? But no more than that. Okay, no more than that. So remember, wudu is a part of worship, and if Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessing be upon him, did it in a certain way, then you have to do it that way. So if he did it once, we know that's so we can do it. He did it twice. He washed his body parts 3 times. So no more than that. Don't think that you're going to be extra pure because you did it 5 times or 6 times or even 4 times. But the key is make sure that you're only washing your body parts once, twice, or 3 times, but no more than that, because it's an act of worship, and you only when it comes to the acts of worship, you do it according to the way Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessing be upon him, did, not the way we feel like it, even if you think it's you doing something good by doing something extra. Now, very important, do not leave any body part. And I'll use another color, dry. Okay, and why is this important? So, key is make sure that when you're doing wudu, there's no dry spots. So the spots that you're doing, let's say you're supposed to be doing elbows, and your arms up to your elbows, and a little bit of your just below your elbow, some body part is still dry. And if it was if it's something that you had to be washing during your wudu, face or anything else, make sure that it's not dry. Otherwise, your wudu is not accepted, and you're not pure. And if you're not pure, then you can't pray. So don't leave any body parts dry when you're doing wudu. Otherwise, your prayer is not going to get accepted, and you're not going to be in the state of purity. Now, I wanted to show you something. Now, this is part of a major part of our Islamic culture. You're gonna see it, and especially if you're a new Muslim and you did not grow up watching this is something that I would like to introduce you to, and let you know what the significance of using it. And what I'm talking about is miswak, okay, or it's also known as siwak. Sometimes you will hear people calling it miswak or siwak. Basically, it's a brush. Okay, it's a natural brush. And you can see that it's made out of this is basically a stem of a tree. And you cut off just to chip off part of it, and inside you'll have this God-given brush. And it has all the nutrients and everything that you need in order to clean your teeth. Now, Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessing be upon him, used to use this a lot. In fact, whenever he used to wake up, he would, wash his hands and then make sure that he would brush his teeth by using siwak, and then do wudu. So, before wudu, use siwak. Now, key is that you should, and Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, peace and blessing be upon him, actually told us that if it was for burden on his nation, he would have asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make miswak, or to make siwak mandatory upon his nation, because he knew that if he made it mandatory, not all of us would be able to do it. We might become lazy, and and might ignore this act, and we could be accountable for it. So he didn't ask God to make it mandatory. But it just shows you how important it is for us to brush our teeth, to stay clean, and make sure our breath is not bad. At the same time, whenever Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessing be upon him, would enter his house, he would be using siwak. His family members will give him siwak, and he will use it. And it shows us how Islam emphasizes cleanliness, and at the same time bad breath, and making sure that people around us are comfortable. So make sure that you start using, again, scholars say that it's okay if you don't use siwak, but brush your teeth. And again, even before doing wudu, it is not mandatory based off the hadith of Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessing be upon him. But this is something that you will be seeing people at the mosque, and you'll say, why are they chewing on a branch? But that's what it is. It's basically they're doing it because they heard about Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessing be upon him, use this siwak to brush his teeth, and that is why Muslims do the same thing. And you can get them from any Islamic bookstores. Most of the big masajids or mosques, you will see they have these small room where they're selling Islamic books, and you can find these over there. Now I want to introduce the topic of wiping over socks. So let's say you have wudu, you're pure, you're in the state of wudu, or you're in the state of purity, okay? And now you put socks on. And then so after a while, you break your wudu. Of course, the next step would be to make wudu. Now, the last step before you get to your feet, you say, hey, I have to wash my feet. So basically, you have to take your socks off. But the key is, if you were pure, meaning if you're in the state of wudu, and you put socks on, okay, Now, after you put the socks on, you did not take them off, and you break your wudu, then when it's time to make your wudu, you can wipe over socks. Wipe over socks. Okay. So when it comes to washing your feet, don't take off your socks and wash them. Basically, you can just wipe over your socks. Just take wet hands and wipe over your socks. Okay. Now the key is the socks must cover up to your ankles or above, but cannot be below. Up to your ankles, if I spelled it right. But they have to be above your ankles. Otherwise, if they're one of those small, those short socks that we get, for workout or so, they're not gonna do. But the key is that if you have socks up to your ankles, make sure that or anything else that covers your feet. Could be high boots or socks. Some socks are made out of leather. Some socks are made out of wool. But some scholars say that it should be only leather socks. But we have proof where the word that is used in the hadith is not just leather socks. It could be other types of socks as well. But besides that, key is make sure that if you wear socks up to your ankles, of course, up to your ankles, and when it comes time for you to wash your feet, don't worry about taking off your socks. Just wipe over your socks, right and then left. Just take wet hands. You're not washing your socks. You're just wiping over it. Again, that will get you in the state of wudu, and you will be pure, and now you can pray. Now here's another scenario. Let's make another scenario. So you're not pure. Okay, basically you just woke up and you decided to put socks on. And even if they were up to your ankles, now you make wudu. Okay, and then later on, so basically you woke up, you put your socks on, and now you make your wudu, and you can't wipe over. You can't wipe over socks, right? Because you're saying, hey, I'm about to make wudu, I have my socks on, why can't I wipe over my socks? Because you were not pure. You were not pure when you put your socks on in the morning. So the key is make sure that you do wudu first. In the morning, make your first wudu. Make sure it is washing your feet properly and everything. Then put your socks on. After that, if you end up breaking your wudu, then you can wipe over. But if you put socks on while in the state of impurity, then when it comes time to do wudu, you have to make sure that you take off your socks and wash them. You can't just wipe over. So that's something that just keep in mind about wiping over your socks. So this definitely helps out when we're in the professional world, in the outdoors, and wherever we're working. And times time comes for us to do wudu, it's very easy. You just wipe over your socks. You don't have to take them off. Now the key is, can we just sleep in our socks and then wake up and keep on doing that? No. So if you are not traveling, basically you're a resident, then you have 24 hours. Okay, 1 day and 1 night is what Prophet Muhammad described us, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But you have basically 1 day and 1 night to wipe over your socks. The other is if you're traveling, if you're in the state of travel, then it's good till 3 days. 3 days, 3 nights, basically. 24 hours times 3. So 3 days when traveling, you're allowed to wipe over your socks. So basically every day you have to make sure you do at least one wudu, which is a full wudu. Without wiping over your socks, you're actually going to take off your socks and wash your feet. Now, but this is only for wudu. You can't put waterproof socks on, and let's say you're in the state of major impurity, then it's not gonna work. For major impurity, you have to do ghusl. For ghusl, you have to take a bath, and you can't say, oh, I have my socks on, I'm just gonna wipe over my socks. Let's say they were waterproof socks. It only works for wudu. So these are some of the rules that you just need to know when it comes to wiping over socks, and the time limit that we have. And also, let's say you got hurt, okay, and you put Band-Aid on, right? So you had a cast or Band-Aid, aid. I think that's how you spell it. But the key is, if taking off your cast, of course, or taking off your band-aid is going to be, not good for the wound that you have on your body, then you can just wipe over this band-aid or the cast as well. But you have to be, the decision maker. Make sure you make the right decision in terms of, hey, my cut wasn't that bad. I'm sure the bleeding has stopped. If I take off my band-aid and wipe and wash my hands, I'm gonna survive. I'm not gonna be hurting my body or anything like that. Then you should take it off. But let's say you have band-aid on, and if you take it off, it's gonna start bleeding and it's not good for you. Then you can just wipe over band-aid. Or let's say you had a cast on, that should be fine. So some of these miscellaneous issues that we should keep in mind related to wudu. Now, in our next lesson, we will be getting into the topic of dry wudu. When there's lack of water, what can we do? And we hinted at this earlier in the lesson, but we'll get a little bit more detail into the topic of the dry wudu.